January 17th, 1943. Solomon Sea, 29,000 feet. Frost spreads in thin white veins across the canopy of Lieutenant Richard Irabong's P-38 Lightning as the engines hum at a pitch only twin-turbo superchargers can reach. The air up here is thin, metallic, and deadly cold. Beneath him, the scattered emerald islands of the Solomons flicker through patches of cloud like shards of broken jade. And somewhere below, he knows, a formation of Japanese Zeros is climbing. "Okay, boys, keep it tight," Captain Thomas Lynch calls over the radio. His voice crackles with static, but carries that unmistakable edge, the tension that every pilot knows before first contact. The P-38s bank east, wings glinting in the morning sun. Their silhouettes look nothing like the sleek American fighters the Japanese are used to. 2 booms, 1 central pod, a shape so strange that pilots of the Imperial Japanese Navy have already given it a nickname. Nishin Dena, the two-tailed monster. A monster they laugh at. A monster they believe cannot turn, cannot fight, cannot kill. A month earlier, over Buen, a captured Japanese radio intercept reported pilots mocking it openly, slow, heavy, clumsy, a machine too complicated, too fragile, too big. The Zero, by contrast, was Quicksilver, light, elegant, almost balletic in the hands of an experienced IJN aviator. For years, the A6M-0 had ruled the Pacific air with terrifying dominance. It outturned, outclimbed, and outfought nearly everything placed before it. So when Japanese pilots first spotted the Lightning, they laughed. But not for long. A sharp tone blares inside Bong's cockpit. Radar-equipped ground controllers from Guadalcanal are guiding them toward a rising cluster of enemy fighters. "Angels 20 climbing fast," a voice reports. "Looks like a dozen Zeros headed your way." Bong inhales slowly. He nudges the throttle. The twin Allison engines surge, the turbo superchargers screaming like twin banshees. The P-38 was built for this altitude. The Zero was not. Below, the Japanese formation breaks through a cloud and fans out. Captain Hiroshi Tanaka, leading his chutai of veteran pilots, squints upward. He sees the American fighters shimmering in the sun, those long wings and twin engines. Ridiculous machines, he thinks, machines that have no place in a turning fight. He grins into his oxygen mask. "They fear us," he tells his wingman through his mask, his voice thin in the cold. "They always dive away. Today we end this." He signals the attack. The Zeros pull up into a steep climb, engines roaring as they chase the Americans. But something is wrong, very wrong. Instead of diving away, the P-38s are climbing higher, higher, higher. "Impossible," Tanaka whispers. The American fighters are rising faster, much faster, leaving the Zeros struggling, shuddering at the edge of stall. And then it happens. A P-38 drops from above like a silver hammer. The sun blinds the Zero pilots for a heartbeat. Only a heartbeat, but enough. Richard Bong squeezes his triggers. The nose-mounted .50 calibers erupt in a tight, devastating stream of fire. No wing guns, no convergence issues. Every round flies straight ahead like a laser beam. A Zero blossoms into fire. Tanaka watches his wingman spiral downward, trailing smoke, and for the first time a shadow of doubt crosses his mind. The monster can dive. The monster can climb. And worse, the monster hunts from above. Bong banks hard, pulling out of the dive with the raw strength of twin engines at his command. The P-38's mass and power snap it into position like a giant turning on its prey. Over the radio, Lynch shouts, "They thought we couldn't turn. Well, show 'em what a roll and dive looks like." The Lightning Squadron splits, half climbing for altitude, half diving for firing positions. The Zeros are caught in a deadly vice. Tracer rounds stitch the sky. Aluminum fragments burst from wings. The once-mocked American fighters move with frightening coordination, predators circling the confused Japanese formation that had confidently charged them only minutes earlier. Tanaka tries to dive out. The Zero has always excelled in the dive, until now, because the monster dives faster. The P-38 plunges past him, accelerating like gravity itself favors it. Tanaka feels the pressure mounting in his chest. His controls tremble. The thin-skinned Zero is near its structural limits, but the lightning is still gaining. Down below, the sea glitters. High above, the lightning pulls into a smooth arc, preparing another pass. Mockery dies quickly in combat, but this was annihilation. As Tanaka regains control and steadies his fighter, he mutters a phrase no Japanese pilot ever wanted to say. We underestimated them. From that altitude, from that moment, everything changes. Tanaka's breath fogs inside his mask as he steadies the trembling Zero. His wings rattle from the near-stall climb. His engine wheezes from thin air it was never designed to breathe. And somewhere above him, the two-tailed monster circles like a hawk, deciding when to strike again. Regroup, regroup, he calls out in clipped bursts. But only two voices answer. The rest are dead air. The American fighters seem to come from everywhere. Silent, silver shapes gliding through the glare. The P-38s no longer behave like heavy, awkward machines. They move with vertical authority, booming downward in controlled dives and then shooting back into the clouds with raw, unmatchable power. Below the battle, Vela La Vela Island glows in the morning sun. Above it, at nearly 30,000 feet, Japanese pilots face a truth their commanders refuse to believe. The Zero's era of dominance is evaporating, literally, in the thin, freezing air. Down in Lightning White 12, Lieutenant Bong levels out, scanning the sky with calm precision. His breathing is slow, practiced. The engines throb steadily behind him, twin heartbeats of American industry. He checks his 6, clear. He checks his altimeter, 26,000 and climbing. Plenty of room to play with. Lynch, I'm going high again, he radios. Let's box him in. Lynch answers with a short laugh, not cocky, just confident in a machine that finally lives up to its promise. The P-38 pilots push upward where the Zero cannot follow. Below them, Tanaka and his remaining flyers struggle to reform. Their planes shudder like birds, gasping for air too thin to sustain them. Tanaka's wingman, Petty Officer Junpei Sato, curses softly. Lieutenant, they climb like demons. Tanaka does not respond immediately. He is watching the contrails forming above him, long white spears cutting across the blue. The P-38s are not merely climbing. They are positioning. They are hunting. Tanaka finally whispers, we misjudge their reach. Inside Bong's cockpit, sunlight bursts across the canopy as he breaks above a thin layer of cirrus cloud. The world becomes blindingly bright, a pale ocean of mist below, an endless blue above. And through that blue he sees them. 3 Zeros, scattered, trying to pull into the sun where the glare might hide them. Bong smiles faintly. He's seen this tactic before. The P-38's guns don't care about angles. At high altitude, its speed differential is murderous. He rolls inverted. Gravity grips the lightning. The engines roar. The monster dives. In the Zero, Sato hears something he dreads, a faint, rising scream behind him. At first he thinks it's wind across his canopy, but the pitch rises, sharpens, becomes mechanical. He knows the sound, turbo superchargers. He jerks his stick left, too late. Bong's tracers flash past, ripping holes through Sato's starboard wing. The Zero lurches. Flames burst from the cowling. Sato ejects the canopy and prepares to bail, but the slipstream slams him back against his seat. The burning aircraft begins a slow spiraling fall. Tanaka watches the fireball descending through the clouds. Another life gone. Another veteran lost. And yet he cannot even dive to save him. The Zero's skin will tear apart in a vertical pursuit at these speeds. The P-38, it becomes a falling star. Captain Lynch dives next, targeting Tanaka directly. His voice crackles over the radio. Lightning lead to all, they keep pressure, they break, we follow, they climb, we outclimb, they dive, we outrun, box formation, then sweep. The formation tightens instantly. It is not chaos now. It is not scattered dives or frantic turns. It is choreography. In the space of minutes, Japanese pilots who once mocked the lightning now find themselves surrounded by American fighters using tactics perfectly tailored for high-altitude murder. One P-38 pins a zero in a shallow climb, another dives behind it. A third blocks the escape route. A fourth waits above, an executioner in the sun. Tanaka feels his lungs tighten, not from altitude, but from realization. "We must withdraw," he shouts, but there is no formation left to withdraw with, only scattered dots, some falling, some burning, some fleeing for the safety of thicker air below. He banks southeast, heart pounding. If he can reach cloud cover, he might live. Above him, Lynch watches the zero trying to escape and nods. "Bong, you're high. He's all yours." Bong answers calmly, "I see him." The lightning climbs once more, engines thrumming with a steady, hungry rhythm. The mockery ends today. Lieutenant Richard Bong steadies his breathing as he brings the P-38 back into the thin kingdom of the upper sky. His gloved hand braces lightly on the throttle quadrant, feeling the tremor of two supercharged Allisons pulling him higher, higher, until the world below becomes nothing more than a white, swirling sea of cloud. Ahead of him, glinting weakly in the sun, is the fleeing zero. Tanaka's fighter looks delicate from this distance, a pale speck struggling against a horizon that has turned against him. Even at full throttle, the A6M is barely gaining speed. The cold air throttles its engine, choking it. Its frame, designed for agility at low altitude, now seems fragile and out of place among the brutal physics of the high sky. Bong adjusts his trim tab. The lightning responds with a growl and begins to close the distance. He doesn't rush the shot. He never rushes. You don't become America's future top ace by wasting ammunition. High above, the sun blazes off his wings, turning the P-38 into a silhouette the zero cannot easily detect. Bong angles himself so that the glare masks his approach. Below him, Tanaka senses something, a prickling in the back of his mind. His cockpit has grown too quiet, too alone. He checks the mirror. Nothing. He checks again, faster this time. Still nothing. But the feeling doesn't go away. Back at 27,000 feet, Captain Lynch watches the engagement unfold from a distance. He can see Bong's lightning descending in a long, measured curve, a hunter's glide rather than a fighter's dive. "He's already dead," Lynch mutters to himself. Not with pride, not with anger, just the cold, factual clarity of combat. "All units, keep the air clear. Bong's got this one." The radio crackles with acknowledgments. The sky feels eerily empty now. The frantic dance of earlier has slowed to a grim, singular pursuit. Tanaka keeps checking his mirror. Still no enemies, still no shapes. Then he hears it, a faint whistling, so faint it might be imagined. Or it might be everything. His heart slams against his ribs. He banks sharply left, and at that instant Bong fires. From above, 4 converging lines of 50 caliber fire slice through the air like the blades of an invisible scythe. The rounds stitch across the Zero's left wing, tearing fabric and aluminum in neat, brutal lines. Tanaka's fighter jolts violently, skidding sideways in the sky. Inside the cockpit, he gasps, the oxygen mask muffling his shock. His aircraft begins to roll uncontrollably. He pulls hard on the stick. His muscles strain. His vision blurs. The P-38 flashes past overhead like a silver ghost. "Direct hit," Bong radios calmly. "He's damaged." But the kill isn't certain. Not yet. Tanaka wrestles the Zero back toward level flight. Smoke curls from the wing root. His engine sputters, coughing like a wounded animal. The aircraft is still flying, but barely. He knows he must dive. Dive or die. He pushes the nose down and plunges toward the cloud deck. The thin air thickens as he drops, giving the Zero back some of its long-lost agility. For a moment, only a moment, he believes he might slip away. But Bong has anticipated this. The P-38 is already dropping behind him, its dive speed monstrous, unstoppable. 30,000 feet of altitude becomes 30,000 feet of kinetic fury. Bong's voice comes over the radio, low and focused. "I'm in." He squeezes the triggers again. The Lightning's cannons bark fire. Tracer lines glow like orange spears in the cold air. Tanaka sees them. He rolls hard right. Too slow. Rounds punch through the underside of the fuselage. The cockpit vibrates. A thin scream erupts from the engine as the Zero's power plant finally gives up the fight. Smoke fills the canopy. Tanaka coughs violently. He knows what comes next. He reaches for the canopy latch. His hands tremble. Below him, the ocean glitters faintly, impossibly far away. He pulls the latch. Wind slams into the cockpit like a wall. The canopy rips free. The smoke whirls out. The sunlight pours in. Tanaka closes his eyes for a heartbeat. So this is how the monster kills, he thinks. Then he pushes himself upward, bracing for the slipstream to tear him free. Behind him, Bong watches the pilot bail out. The Zero spirals downward, trailing a long ribbon of black smoke. "Pilot's out," he reports. "Enemy aircraft destroyed." He doesn't cheer. He never does. There's no triumph in watching a man fall through the sky. Only the cold acknowledgement that another life has been extinguished in the machine of war. But for the Japanese squadrons in the Solomons, this moment becomes something far larger than one pilot's defeat. It is the first crack in a myth. The Zero is not invincible, and the monster they mocked now owns the space above them. High-altitude combat, once their domain, now belongs to the Americans, and the P-38 untold or Lightning is only just beginning its reign. February 3rd, 1943, Rabaul Airfield, New Britain. The tropical heat hangs thick over the flight line as mechanics wipe oil from their hands and officers cluster around a wooden table strewn with reports, maps, and half-empty teacups. The air smells of sweat, fuel, and something heavier: dread. Lieutenant Commander Masaru Fujita, one of the Imperial Navy's most respected tacticians, stands rigidly at the head of the table. His gaze is fixed on a short, hastily written combat report from the Solomon Sea. The handwriting is tense, shaky, burned into the page like the last confession of a man who barely survived. Encountered new American twin-engine fighter at extreme altitude, impossible climb rate, impossible dive speed, impossible angle of attack. We were outmatched above 20,000 feet. Request immediate tactical revision. Fujita reads the next line out loud. "Mocking this aircraft may cost us the war." A murmur ripples through the officers. No one says it, but the truth is clear. Japanese pilots had underestimated the P-38 fatally, repeatedly, catastrophically. Outside, the sun bears down on a runway where Zero after Zero returns with bullet holes punched clean through the wings. Some land trailing smoke, some with landing gear refusing to lock. Some do not return at all. A senior mechanic curses as he studies the shattered remains of a fuselage panel. "High-caliber rounds," he mutters. "Too clean, too direct. Americans have something new up there." His assistant nods grimly. "Two engines. The monster with two tails. Our boys say it comes down like a falling star." The mechanic spits on the hot concrete. No airplane should fly that high, or dive that fast. Back in the command hut, Fujita lays down the report. "We misjudged the enemy," he says, each syllable measured. "This Lightning, it is not a bomber. It is not a heavy fighter. It is something else." A staff officer scoffs. "With respect, Commander, the Zero has dominated every engagement for 2 years, against Wildcats, against P-40s, even against the British. How can this American creature be so much different?" Fujita points at the casualty list spread across the table. "Because we are losing pilots faster than we can replace them." Veteran pilots, men who survived Singapore, Java, Pearl Harbor, now they die in minutes. Another officer leans forward, forehead damp with sweat. "What is your assessment?" Fujita pauses. The room seems to hold its breath. "High-altitude combat is no longer ours," he says quietly. "They have surpassed us where the sky grows thin. And up there, the lightning is king." Thousands of miles away, on Guadalcanal, American pilots gather outside their makeshift briefing tent, dust swirling around their boots as they rehash the morning's engagement. Captain Lynch removes his helmet and runs a hand through sweat-matted hair. "That Zero leader was good," he says. "Veteran, probably. Too good to still be flying patrol." He looks over at Bong. "But you owned him." Bong shrugs. "He was climbing where he shouldn't have, and we were exactly where we needed to be." "Up high?" Lynch asks. Bong laughs softly. "No, above high." The pilots chuckle, but the truth resonates deeper than humor. Their P-38s can dance where the air is thin. The Zeros cannot, and every engagement drifts higher with each passing week. 2 days later, Fujita sits alone in his office reviewing updated intelligence from Bougainville. He traces the reported altitudes with a finger: 25,000 feet, 28,000 feet, 30,000 feet. The numbers haunt him. Japan's training emphasized low-altitude turn fighting, the graceful acrobatic duels that made the Zero legendary. But this new war favors physics, horsepower, and metal strength. It favors density-altitude calculations and turbo superchargers. It favors oxygen masks and long metal wings that thrive in the cold void above the clouds. It favors American engineering. Fujita grips his pencil so hard it snaps in half. "We cannot win up there," he whispers to himself. Outside, the afternoon sun glints off a line of Zeros preparing for takeoff, beautiful machines designed for a world that no longer exists. Across the Pacific, Bong lies awake in his cot. The tropical night hums with insects and distant surf. He stares at the canvas ceiling and revisits the sight of the Japanese pilot bailing out, flung into the sky like a rag doll torn from a burning puppet. He feels no triumph, only inevitability. Flying a P-38 at altitude feels like holding a secret weapon. A weapon so brutally effective that its victims rarely have a chance to understand what destroyed them. America built a machine that rewrote the rules of the sky. Japan had no answer. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And so, in those first months of 1943, a realization settles like a storm front across the Pacific. The Lightning isn't just another fighter. It's the first true predator of the high-altitude war.
March 11th, 1943. Above Bougainville, 31,000 feet. The cold is so intense that metal snaps like brittle glass. Frost creeps across every exposed surface. Even inside the cockpit, Lieutenant Richard Bong can feel the numbness spreading into his fingertips, despite the heated flight suit. The Lightning's engines howl, not in strain, but in triumph. Up here, in the roof of the sky, the P-38 becomes something uncompromising, something untouchable. It owns the thin blue. He peers down through the canopy. Tiny black specks move below, a Japanese formation, 12 strong, rising steadily through the cloud deck. Old habits die hard. Even after weeks of brutal lessons, Japanese squadrons continue climbing to intercept. Loyal to the Zero's legend, obedient to outdated doctrine, determined to reclaim a sky that no longer answers to them. Lightning lead to all pilots. Captain Lynch's voice crackles calmly through the headset. Same plan. Sun at our backs, altitude advantage. Hit them before they know we're here. Bong tightens his oxygen mask and begins the gentle roll that pivots his aircraft into attack position. Below, the Japanese fighters ascend in tight V formation, disciplined, purposeful, unaware that predators circle above them like silent ghosts. Lieutenant Kaito Hayashi, leading the Zero formation, checks his gauge anxiously. His engine struggles, his propeller labors. The thin air gnaws at every mechanical component. Still, they press upward. Orders from Rabol have become increasingly desperate in recent weeks. Intercept, chase, force them into close combat, regain the air. Hayashi knows the truth his commanders won't admit. The closer they get to 30,000 feet, the more their aircraft becomes a coffin. He wipes frost from the inside of his canopy. The sky ahead blazes a harsh, blinding white. Something moves in that glare. Something wrong. Something too fast. 12 o'clock high, Hayashi shouts. But the words come too late. The P-38s fall from the sun in a perfectly timed dive. 8 silver arrows, cutting through the cold air with almost surgical precision. Bong lines up his shot the moment his gun sight finds the lead 0. He fires. All 4 50 calibers and the 20mm cannon unleash their fury. The rounds slam into Hayashi's wing, shredding fabric and fuel lines. Flames erupt instantly. Hayashi barely has time to cry out before his aircraft becomes a comet of fire spiraling toward the sea. His wingman tries to turn into the dive, the instinct carved into every 0 pilot. But the moment he rotates, a second lightning rips through from above, firing so precisely that the 0's tail detaches cleanly from its fuselage. The pilot never has a chance. Lynch watches it unfold with an icy detachment forged from experience. They're braking. Press them. Don't let a single one climb. The sky becomes a one-sided massacre. Every Japanese pilot tries the same thing. Break into a turn, force a dogfight, bring the battle back to the world the 0 was built for. But at this altitude, their turns are sluggish death spirals. Their engines gasp. Their controls stiffen. Their wings tremble. The P-38s, by contrast, are alive, eager, responsive, powerful. Bong pulls up from his dive and loops around, climbing a full 1,000 feet in seconds. The superchargers keep the engines roaring even as the air thins to razor sharpness. He comes around behind another 0. This one is climbing straight up, a desperate vertical escape. He's stalling, Bong mutters, and then, I've got him. 2 short bursts. 2 flashes. The 0 tumbles backward, its propeller frozen, its wings folding inward as gravity reclaims it. From the Japanese side, the terror is palpable. Chief Petty Officer Kenji Morimoto watches the sky shatter around him. 0's explode into flame. Others simply stop climbing, their engines coughing out like dying lungs. Some try diving away, only to find lightnings already below them, waiting to run them down. Morimoto's voice breaks over the radio. We cannot fight up here. His plea receives no answer. The airwaves crackle only with static and the final screams of machines dying in the cold. Morimoto noses over into a dive, praying the thicker air below will hide him. His aircraft shudders violently as it drops, the thin frame groaning in protest. He looks back over his shoulder. A silver shape is falling behind him, smooth, fast, elegant in its deadly descent. The monster with 2 tails. The monster his comrades once laughed at. Morimoto whispers into his mask, "Forgive us. We were wrong." Above, Bong eases off the throttle, letting the burning 0 slip from view. He checks his fuel, checks his ammo, checks the sky. The battle is already over. Lynch's voice crackles through the headset. Solomon Control, this is Lightning Lead. Area clear. No survivors in the air. The high sky is ours. A silence follows. Then a simple reply from Ground Control. God help the men who try to challenge you up there. And so, through the early months of 1943, the Pacific witnesses a transformation no one had predicted. The feared 0 loses its crown. The P-38 Lightning, mocked, underestimated, dismissed, becomes the apex predator of the upper sky. From the Aleutians to the Solomons, from New Guinea to the Philippines, Japanese pilots will whisper the same truth. We laughed at the lightning until it hunted us from 30,000 feet.